Hey DLL, Linus, with the announcement of Fantasian Neo Dimension being released on multiple platforms, are you going to replay the game on different platforms with the updated features?
No.
It's easy.
I enjoyed the game. I enjoyed the so for those not familiar, Fantasian is a kind of under the radar JRPG that involved I'm gonna butcher the pronunciation, but Hironobu Sakaguchi and Nobu Uematsu. But basically, like OG Final Fantasy lead and OG Final Fantasy composer is kind of all you need to know. Really, really unique visual style. So the environments, instead of being rendered, oh man, this is horrible. Here we go. The environments, instead of being rendered, are handcrafted dioramas that were then captured, and then the rendered elements are
cool.
They are.
I like that art style.
It honestly is enjoyable just walking around in these environments. It's absolutely incredible. I do wish that they weren't so limited by the hardware that they were running on, because the game was an Apple Arcade exclusive for, it's been at least a couple of years now. And I was so excited for this game, and that I was like, on it, like I rarely am like, okay, when's this game coming? When's this game? And then it's like, oh, it's Apple Arcade exclusive. Oh, it's Apple Arcade exclusive basically forever. I think this is the first time in my life that I have bought a console just to play a game. I went and I bought an Apple TV something or other, Apple TV 4K or something like that. I went to Costco. I bought a stupid Apple TV so I could sit and play this game.
Is this the only thing you ever used it for?
It is the only thing I ever did with it. And it now is not even plugged in anymore. So I played through it, and I loved how delightfully old school it was, because it really was like a back to basics. The music's beautiful. The environments are beautiful. The combat is fun. It's got this dimension system where as you're walking around, you get random encounters, just like a classic JRPG, and there's kind of too many of them, just like a classic JRPG. But the main character has this device he carries with him that allows you to just queue up multiple random encounters. So as you walk, it's just like, you got a random...
You got one.
And the monsters just go into this like weird alternate dimension, and then you can fight them all at once. And
that's kind of nice, actually.
That makes some of the attacks that have like these long arcs or like these shoot through abilities and stuff like that make more sense, because instead of fighting 2 to 5 at a time, you're fighting like 20 to 40 at a time, and they like spawn in as you kill them and stuff. And I never really stopped enjoying the combat, which was pretty unusual for a JRPG, where a lot of the time it's just like, okay, well, I just max out flare, and then I spend all my money on like ethers, and then who cares anymore? Like this is just tedious. At least the loading times are short, because it's an old one on SNES or whatever. Like, oh man, playing on like the PlayStation 2 is painful sometimes. Yeah. Anyway, the point is that the combat never really got old. I will say that there are some things that were less delightfully retro. Like I wouldn't say that, I'm the kind of person that is gonna, boycott a studio over a less than modern representation of, say, for example, women. But I will say that even to me, I was kind of like, these women characters were written by men.
Yikes.
Like the level of, I get it. He's a studly guy, the protagonist character that I get to, play or insert myself into the role playing game, role. I get it. But the level of fawning here is, wow. And to be clear, it really isn't that different from the kind of media that, the other side will consume, right? Like, the whole point of Twilight is that kind of an ordinary young lady has these supernatural beings vying for her, right? Like, we get the same level of ridiculousness both ways, but it just felt a little much for me in this particular game. And they have a philosophy for boss fights that I think is both really cool and also kind of frustrating. So in a boss encounter, you kind of have to figure it out. You can't just go in and hit with your hardest attacks and watch the attack pattern. You really do need to change up your party a lot. Like it's one of those games where you've got a big roster and you will use almost all of them in every boss fight, or you're pretty much doing it wrong.
That's cool.
But what I found really frustrating was that you often wouldn't have time to figure it out. It's one of those games where the only way to figure it out on a first playthrough is to read the strategy guide ahead of time. And some of the things you would need to do would involve not just making sure you have the right characters in your roster, but making sure that not only have you leveled them up suitably, like that specific one, but you've got like that specific branch of the tech tree. To its credit, you can respec your tech tree anytime you want, but there is a lot of micromanaging. That sounds
very tedious.
And not just tedious, but like and the creative thinking is kind of cool, but the way that so many of the bosses can just 1 or 2 hit wipe you, or just like 3 hit wombo combo you, no matter how many buffs you had, and how long the fights go. So I have no problem with it both ways. Okay, give me a long, drawn out, tedious boss fight. I'll fight a boss for an hour, no problem. Or I will fight a boss where there's like a gimmick, and once I figure it out, like it's over. Don't give me both. I don't want a gimmick that I have to grind through for an hour.
Ooh.
Like there were some that were really quite like that, and part of my problem is there's a part where your party gets split up, and there were 2 that you're like supposed to find first, but for whatever reason I didn't. I found a bunch of the other ones first, so they were way under leveled. And then I came up against a part in the game where there's a couple of boss fights that I really need them leveled up and teched up more. And it was really tedious to grind those levels because of the way the EXP curve works for what you're fighting and how much EXP you get. Anyway,
right.
I made it to the final of the like 3 or 4 stages or whatever it is of the final boss. I died at that point. I had already been fighting him for like an hour and a half or something like that, and I was just sitting here going like, I get it. I don't need to play the game again, but I also would recommend it if you do enjoy classic RPGs. I felt the game needed a little bit more playtesting. I think that part of it was just a philosophical difference. It's intended to be hard.
Do you think it might, this new version that came out might have addressed that?
It does. It has like a normal, which means normie difficulty mode. So I think it's coming out for Switch. And then there was a Steam DB entry for it a while back, but I actually don't know if they've made any announcements about it formally. So I don't know if it's actually coming to PC or not. I forget what the question was.
I'm assuming, I'm trying to look up the like YouTube announcement trailer. I'm assuming at the end it'll show the things it's launching on.
Are you going to replay the game on different platforms?
No. Yeah, that and like my saves on Apple Arcade, I guess. So if I wanted to New Game Plus it, I have no idea if I can export that. I doubt it.
Got another one for you here, Linus.
My Steam Deck doesn't work.
There you go. You got mine.
Luke Lab. There we go. There.
Steam Deck.
Oh, look at that.
Switch, PS5, PS4, Xbox Series X and S, and Steam.
Kind of crazy that they're doing this through Square Enix. Yeah. I think Square Enix is helping with the porting. Don't quote me on that. But my understanding was at some point there had been like some kind of falling out at some point. So it's pretty wild. Life's too short for grudges, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a quote from Fallout New Vegas that I've always really liked. I can't switch it back. There we go.
Yeah, that's okay. We share. Here you go.
Right, where is it? No. I didn't want it on my screen. Lastly, waging war against good people is bad for the soul. This may not seem important to you now, but is the most important thing I've said. It's a good quote.
Yeah.
It's a good quote.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
I like that. Yeah. I should have my extended family play what was it? Fallout
New Vegas.
Fallout New Vegas, yeah.
that would probably be kind of interesting.
Let me get on that.
Yeah.